here, and I wanted to welcome Cole Reiken to the Used Car Dealer podcast. I'm excited to have you on, and as managing director of Blue Driver, a leader in smarter diagnostics and data-driven tools, reshaping used car profitability and customer trust. You bring a unique perspective on how technology is transforming dealership operations. So let's jump into the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Zach. Really excited to have this chat with you.
So, Cole, you've held roles at Impel.AI, Open Lane, Canadian Black Book before joining Blue Driver. What prompted you or what got you interested to join Blue Driver, and what lessons from your previous experience is really relevant to your current role?
Yeah, Zach, I think, what really got me excited in joining Blue Driver really was the product market fit. My background is in product management and bringing products to market specifically for car dealers in the auto industry, both on the retail side, as well as on the wholesale side. So when I was doing the analysis of looking for an opportunity, one of the things to look for is how well does a product actually satisfy the needs in the marketplace? And Blue Driver to me was just one of those I looked one side and I'm like, wow, this is a perfect product made. It adds value, it solves a problem, it educates, and it actually will drive ROI for dealers in the commercial space, but also in the retail space, give you a very, very good solution for our retail product, our retail consumers. So that's what got me really excited in Blue Driver is just the way the product fit with solving problems and adding value for both the retail and the commercial users. The second part of your question is really interesting. I've had a very unique background and a wide breadth of depth of bringing solutions to market. All of them very different. I think at Impel, more recently, it's an
Mm.
amazing company on an amazing mission with an amazing rocket ship that they're on right now. But the combination of a product-led growth organization combined with the power of AI and real AI that's delivering transformative workflows for the dealership space was absolutely amazing to experience firsthand. The AI there isn't hype. We hear a lot
Mm.
about AI now in just about every corner that we touch. This is real solutions making dealership lives easier and adding value there. Open Lane was a very different experience. Managing, I was responsible at that time for ADESA.com and ADESA.ca,
Mhm.
managing the online marketplaces and understanding the nuances of the wholesale industry and what makes an auction business run and the speed and the transparency and the trust you have to build between buyers and sellers to allow people to make a very substantial financial decision very quickly. Really opened my eyes to kind of all the parts that kind of go into that. And Black Book was is something again very, very different, which was the really eye-opening to how data is such a core, and in particular, vehicle valuation data is such a core part of the auto industry. There is not a part of the industry that doesn't touch or isn't affected by vehicle valuations in one way or another, be it loan values, be it floor planning, you name it, it touches every part of it. And it's amazing how overlooked that vehicle valuations is really that corner hook, that corner piece of the entire industry. I think the common thread, though,
Mm.
throughout my journey, really has been at this intersection of bringing tools that actually drive value to my customers at the end of the day. And it's this intersection of technology and the automotive industry that I've really been fortunate to be playing in.
Very well put, and just an extremely interesting background. So, my next question for you is about how you approach building teams that span both hardware diagnostics, so like consumer tools, and then enterprise kind of grade diagnostics like Blue Driver Max, and what has been your strategy for balancing those different kind of customer needs?
Fabulous question. It was something I thought a lot about before joining the organization. But what I what I've discovered really at the core of this is that the consumer and the enterprise, the diagnostic capabilities with OBD-II diagnostics and the ability to provide insights into what's happening mechanically with that vehicle, share a core technology. And it's one that can be built upon for the customer experience, and one that would vary differently for each of the consumer space and the commercial space. So success isn't simply about powering a scan, right?
Mm.
What works for consumer space goes beyond how we present and what that experience is, how we present that data back to them in the job that they are trying to do at that moment in time. Most cases in Blue Driver's case is that we're helping someone try to fix a car. They're more likely a do-it-yourselfer and they're looking to fix that car. For dealers, that's a very, very different experience. It's about the workflow and it's about efficiency. It's about ROI, the speed, the coverage, the integrations across the ecosystem of software that are out there, and that consistency from one dealership to the next dealership. Really to manage both, it's like, how do you build this technology in a way that satisfies and fulfills the core value proposition of what we do by providing insights into the vehicle and then presenting the results based on the needs of each audience. And that ties into the workflows that we just talked about and the experience for the retail consumer versus the experience and everything else that we need to build out for that the commercial experience. At the end of it, our teams are internally, we have a team that's really focused on the retail business, and worried about, Amazon sales and our,
Mm.
top of funnel metrics. And then internally we have, for the commercial space, we have an onboarding team, a dedicated customer support team, a training team to help tailor that experience to our client base in the commercial space. Each of them stick to their swim lanes, but it's leveraging the core foundation of building out this really, really strong technology that we have, and then delivering it differently to each of the audiences that we service.
Wow. Sounds very dynamic. And some of the dealers listening or some of the audience, they may be familiar with Blue Driver, some of them may not. Can you walk us through what Blue Driver offers today, especially distinguishing between the consumer and the enterprise kind of dealership product?
Yeah, absolutely, Zach. So Blue Driver Max is our enterprise product for the automotive industry. Blue Driver is our retail brand, is a OBD-II diagnostic device that will scan all the proprietary components inside of the automobile to understand why a warning light is on, to understand what DTCs or diagnostic trouble codes might exist inside of the computer system or the mechanical systems inside of a car. And what we do better than anybody else out there, frankly, is we take that DTC and then we translate that to English. So we'll expand
Hmm.
what a alphanumeric code is into common language English so people can understand what that is. And then where possible, we have a proprietary database of known verified fixes certified by mechanics to actually look at, and we'll suggest, we know how to repair this for you. This is how to go about doing it. And we can go down again. This is where we use that core technology and deliver two different experiences. One, for the retail person, we'll tell them like, this is what the known fix is, and here are the parts you're going to need for that, right? And here's where
Hmm.
you buy these parts. For the commercial space, we'll then deliver through Blue Driver Max. We'll then help under a dealership understand that trade-in vehicle, and then understand through that suggested repair what the parts and labor costs would be to actually perform that repair. So a dealership, when they're evaluating a trade-in, has the insights of what the total cost of reconditioning of that vehicle would be from a mechanical position. And what that does is threefold. One is it gives dealers the ability to maximize profits on that car by actually putting the right number on that car. An evaluation guide might tell you that's a $20,000 car. However, if you go through and the Blue Driver Max comes back with, $2,000 of suggested reconditioning to it because there are these trouble codes underneath, that is no longer a $20,000 car. That's going to be an
Mm.
$8,000 car. And tied to that, right? Tied to that is that
Yeah.
you're going to prevent that oh my God, I missed something in the trade-in process. A week later, as that car moves to the back lot, as it's waiting to be reconditioned to be put back on the front line again, is like, and we hear this, the number of calls I get from dealers on this point alone, where I misdiagnosing a vehicle. I didn't know it had a transmission problem, or I didn't know it had an ABS problem. I just got burned for two, three, $4,000 on the back end that we can prevent on the front end. Our catchphrase is, scan before it catches you, before it costs you, pardon me. And essentially, that's what we help dealers avoid is that surprise later on. And lastly, we provide a bunch of valuations to ensure, protect dealers from fraud. There's a lot of users
Mhm.
out there that like to clear their check engine light ahead of time before coming in to trade in a vehicle. We can help understand when that check engine light was cleared, how long ago it actually was. We can validate the VIN and the mileage. So if anybody's trying to rebrand a VIN, or if anybody's trying to pull the mileage, we don't see that as commonly anymore, but it's still out there. We can help to check those things. So it just protects the dealer a little bit more through that process. So at the end of the day, we integrate the diagnostic reports that we have with a number of appraisal tool systems as well, and reconditioning systems. So if you scan up front, we'll protect you, help you be more profitable at the trade-in process, be able to pass that diagnostic information into appraisal tools, into reconditioning systems, so that it will speed up the whole time it gets you to get that vehicle back to the front line through tools like Repair 360 or
Mm.
V-Auto appraisal system, so that you're putting the right number on that vehicle at the end of the day.
Wow. I mean, that's awesome for dealers. And it kind of leads me to my next question. So, diagnostic transparency is increasingly valued by consumers and dealers alike. In your view, what are the major headwinds preventing wider adoption of these sort of tools at dealerships?
Yeah, for me at dealerships, one of the headwinds for me that I see constantly is um, the fatigue of systems. And if you
Mm.
don't have a product that integrates into the system and easily integrates into the workflows at the dealership, a lot of the time we have the joke that it becomes shelfware. And that's one of the things we spend a lot of time with our customers when they're onboarding to help coach them through the right way to approach appraising a vehicle. A lot of people go out and said, "Oh, I don't need that." But we've done a lot of testing on how do we not add time to the appraisal process. We know that time in all our survey work that we've gone out and the focus groups we've had with dealership customers, really the number one time that prevents somebody from scanning is the perception of time it takes to do this. So we coach a lot of our customers when they're signing up on onboarding with us, how to go about the right way to scan, which is essentially as when you go to do your appraisal, you're going to plug a vehicle a scan in, you do the exterior cosmetic appraisal of the vehicle, and within a minute or two, you come back and you have your scan report done. It adds no time. You're efficient with the use of your time as you go through there. So many tools I see that don't work within the processes at the dealership, and you're fighting constant change management that doesn't happen a lot at the dealership level and doesn't happen efficiently at the dealership level. It's this constant, I don't want to do this, and it's constantly changing, a challenge to get software adopted because of those headwinds. You're not working within the systems and the workflows at the dealership. You're working against them. And that's the biggest challenge as far as adoption at the dealership level.
Totally, totally makes sense. And my next question, EVs and software-defined vehicles are changing the diagnostic landscape. How is Blue Driver adapting or preparing for those sort of shifts in the market?
Yeah, EVs are making more and more of the car park that's out there, and the percent of the audience that we are seeing that needs scanning. We are actively working. Our roadmap right now is very much focused on EV products, and we will be bringing out enhancements to Blue Driver Max in the future to power enable EVs. And that might be through way of a connector into EV vehicles using Blue Driver device. It might look like a separate device. That's still work in our roadmap on which direction that will ultimately take. But we're spending a lot of time to understand the needs, and I think it's a slightly different. Um, uh, set of data that we're looking at to inform dealers and users alike when it comes to EV vehicles. It's not as much around the mechanical condition of the vehicle. There's a lot about battery health. And
Hmm.
depending on the expert you talk to, the right way to get battery health, is you got to drive the car for half an hour. Well, that's not going to work.
Yeah.
At different speeds and at different cycles to understand the overall health of that battery. Well, that's not going to work for a trade-in or auction customers or anything along those lines. So we're spending a lot of time to figure out what is the optimal way to give our customers guidance on battery health as it relates to within the confines that we are just talking about, the workflow at the dealership, the time at the auction, that you have to actually inspect the vehicle, the time you have to actually appraise a trade-in, not to take a vehicle on a half an hour test drive to understand, well, in this situation, the battery does this, and in another situation, the battery performs differently, and overall, you get a picture of it. So that's where we're at with EV right now. We have a lot of work in our roadmap right now. Our engineers are working on our EV product and as we enter that forte moving forward.
Very cool. And I actually just got my first EV, so I've been kind of diving a little into that world personally.
It's fascinating and very different from traditional ICE vehicles once you get into that ownership experience.
Definitely. So I wanted to talk a little bit about future outlook and innovation. So looking forward, what innovations in diagnostics do you think will make the biggest difference for dealers in terms of speed, accuracy, cost, or customer perception?
So I think everybody's chasing this. We're in a very fortunate position where we license data directly from OEMs to power what we do, and that data gives us the most comprehensive ability to scan OEM systems inside of a vehicle, and that gives us the breadth and depth of model coverage. It gives us the year coverage. It gives us the different components within the dealership within the vehicle. Pardon me, here. I still think that the integration side of this and making it easier on the commercial side of the world to integrate that data into more places throughout the ecosystem of systems within a dealership. We talked earlier a little bit about like kicking off the reconditioning process, how we can actually speed up getting that car taken in, knowing in advance what work needs to be done so you can plan that more effectively, and you can really close down the amount of time it takes from getting a vehicle from trade taken in a trade to frontline ready again back out there available for sale. So I think there's a lot of opportunities within that integration of data and diagnostics into there. I also think using the data that we have right now and the ability to roll up this data to also provide insights into what else is likely beyond just the scan you're performing right now. So we get a lot of data looking at the year, make, model, of mileage. So we see a lot of different environments. We see a lot of different parts of the country when we get this data. When we scan a 20, we'll use an example here. I'm just making this up, but like a
Mhm.
2016 Toyota Camry, for example, it comes back clean, but we have enough other data knowing that these five other factors are likely to affect this vehicle inside of the next 90 days or inside the next, you know, 2,000 miles of driving that vehicle. Here are things, here are other factors you should consider while you're looking at a car from a trade-in or even an appraisal perspective. I could see a future where you think about putting a number on a vehicle and you look at this the data that comes back from a scan, you look at a valuation guide, but then you also look at these other five factors that are in the next 90 to 180 days. Here are things you might want to look at, and that valuation is impacted based on what is likely to happen coming down the future with that. So I think that's another way, that the data informed of the overall experience and understanding what is likely to happen with that vehicle moving forward under certain conditions will also play a big role into what the diagnostic data is going to be able to do and tell us with vehicles moving forward.
And what is your vision for how diagnostic tools will be used by consumers versus dealers in 5 years?
Oh, that's a great topic. Um, so I think from a diagnostic perspective, one of the challenges that the consumers are facing right now is that they are experiencing older models, right? Like the average age of a vehicle now is exceeding 12 and a half years, at broad. Uh, Holding on to a car longer likely means you're going to encounter more necessary repairs and more necessary or more issues with the vehicle in general, just overall versus an 8-year-old car or a 6-year-old car. Um, the bridging the gap for consumers to understand what is actually happening with their vehicle by way of an easy device that, as I talked about earlier on, provides the trouble codes in a manner that is understandable in common English, as what we'd say, and then be able to understand, okay, like how severe is this? Versus, is this something I have to worry about right now? Is this something I can worry about in a month? Is this something I can worry about later? And being able to walk into a dealership or a repair facility and not necessarily be as intimidated of knowing there's a knowledge gap between the mechanic and the customer walking in, bridging that gap a little bit to be able to walk in from a consumer perspective and actually say, okay, I understand this is something I need to get addressed now. This is something, it's the device is telling me this, and this is a repair I might be able to wait for. It makes that relationship inside of whoever your preferred repair facility is easier to have, especially when a lot of the time I hear anecdotal stories. I have friends that call me like to validate questions of my mechanic is saying or the repair shop is telling me I need to have this done now. Is this true? Right? How severe is that issue? And if we can close that gap so that uh, discussion level is a little more even, so that consumer actually understands, like, yes, this is something that needs to happen now. The mechanic is actually, and most of the time they are telling you the truth. Should go ahead with that right now. Um, so that's a big part on the consumer side of kind of where I think that's going. And in 5 years' time, I think on the commercial side, um, I think we're going to see a lot more of information following the vehicle moving forward as diagnostics and data enter into these systems now more and more. We'll be able to understand the history of a vehicle in a way we've never been able to understand it before, and when repairs have been made and how that has impacted a vehicle and the lifespan of that vehicle and so on and so forth. And I think all that data is going to be able to be consolidated into, call it a single customer record, a single vehicle record of that car as that goes through the ecosystem of customer lifecycle, a sale, customer ownership, back into the reconditioning or disposal process as well. We'll have a lot more data points to actually be able to put more accurate values on a vehicle and be able to provide more insightful repair information about that vehicle's 5 years down the road. And I think the part, and I mentioned this earlier on, is that all that data will start being integrated into the ecosystems of tools that it will be used across dealerships and the automotive industry at large.
So the next round is a rapid fire segment. So I'm going to ask three questions, kind of rapid fire to get your quick thoughts. So the first question is, what product or feature has surprised you most in development over the past year at your company?
I don't have a product or feature, but I'll tell you is
Hmm.
we'll go back to what I mentioned earlier, is that the workflow component, as soon as we help dealers understand that workflow of the right way to go about the right order of operations of performing a vehicle appraisal, incorporating a scan device, how quickly they get to that, and the fact that they realize there's no time added to this process, and it's like the light bulb moment goes off for them. It's like, oh, why didn't I think of this before? So that to me is, just tweaks in that workflow with what dealerships do right now. Once they get that, the adoption rate skyrockets.
So my next question, what's one app you use every single day?
Uh, uh, I'm a little bit of a news junkie. I spent time in the newspaper industry, so Google News for me is actually one of I'm on there constantly.
Very cool. And then one thing in the auto industry that you think is overhyped right now?
Ooh. I'm going to go back. We touched on this earlier. We talked about shelfware before.
Mhm.
I think this might be a little sensitive to say for some, but I'll say it anyway. I think there's a lot of software out there that's trying to be pushed into the auto industry right now that don't necessarily work and add ROI to a dealership or make will drive revenue and or savings for a business and or find efficiencies. We hear a lot of this now. Everything now has some AI component to it. Everybody is now claiming that they have the next best thing. I think there's a lot of it out there that doesn't necessarily um, uh, work or incorporate into the workflow at a dealership, and therefore there's a lot of overhyped of promises of what actually a solution can do.
Very well said. So I've really enjoyed having you on the podcast, Cole. And my last question, this is, for the audience, are there any exciting updates, events, anything from your company coming out in the next quarter, next year that the audience should know?
Yeah, we're constantly evolving. We talked about the EV earlier in our roadmap. Our roadmap is literally we have a very aggressive quarter by quarter, release schedule. We will be highlighting upcoming features. We'll be at Used Car Week, sharing Blue Driver Max with the audience. We'll be at SEMA. Talking about our device. We're going to be at NADA coming up as well with Blue Driver Max. And during each of those events, we will have net new features that we will be releasing in parallel to those events. So I'll encourage you to stop by, find me. I'll be happy to share kind of each of the net new releases at that time. But we have a roadmap that's full of features that are coming out. But find us at the events or schedule a demo, and we're happy to walk through them all.
Super exciting, Cole. Thanks again for joining me on the podcast.
Thanks for having me, Zach. This has been fun.